With the recent release of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and the success of the Nintendo Switch, Nintendo has proven once again that they are one of the most powerful names in gaming. If you've grown up with video games, there's a good chance that your first experiences with the medium were franchises like Pokémon, Zelda, and of course, Mario. As many people know, Nintendo's influence on gamers and the gaming industry at large stretches back to the 70s. But did you know that Nintendo is over 120 years old? Founded all the way back in 1889, Nintendo is not only one of the biggest companies in gaming, but quite possibly the oldest. However, it took nearly a century until the creation of Mario. So let's take a look at the first 100 years of Nintendo. Even in the beginning, Nintendo's identity was centered on games. Founded by Fusajiro Yamauchi, Nintendo began as a small card shop in Kyoto named Nintendo Koppai. Here, he sold handmade Hanafuda cards that he painted on mulberry bark. The name Nintendo is made up of the Japanese words nin and tendo, famously believed to mean leave luck to heaven. At the time, Japan had very strict gambling laws that had outright banned Western-style playing cards. Japanese citizens instead used a set of small cards that featured artwork in place of numbers called Hanafuda. These cards could be used to get around these gambling restrictions, which led to them becoming very popular in Japan and commonly used in gambling parlors run by the Yakuza. Fusajiro had no sons, so when he stepped down in 1929, he adopted his son-in-law, Sekiro Kaneda, changing his name to Sekiro Yamauchi to take over the company. Sekiro renamed the company to Yamauchi Nintendo & Company and established the Marufuku Company to distribute Nintendo's products. In 1949, Sekiro suffered a stroke, forcing him to step down from Yamauchi Nintendo & Company and leaving it to his grandson, Hiroshi Yamauchi, at the age of 22. Hiroshi renamed the company once again to the Nintendo Playing Card Company. Yamauchi was famous for running the company with an iron fist, and he only trusted himself when deciding what direction to take Nintendo. In 1956, Hiroshi visited the office of the United States Playing Card Company and was shocked at how small their office and production facilities were. And this visit revealed just how limited success could be in the playing card industry. Despite this seed being planted in Yamauchi's mind, Nintendo made a deal with the Walt Disney Company to produce playing cards featuring Disney properties such as Mickey Mouse, Bambi, and Cinderella. The cards were marketed as a family-friendly product and featured instructions for several different games. They went on to sell 600,000 units in 1 year. This success was also used to distance the Nintendo Playing Card Company from their association with illegal gambling and the Yakuza, and instead be seen as a company producing games for all ages, an image they still maintain to this day. After being taken public and facing declining card sales, Yamauchi began to explore other ventures for the company to pursue, and in 1963, renamed the Nintendo Playing Card Company for the last time to the simple and iconic Nintendo. Nintendo vigorously pursued other avenues including vacuum cleaners, taxicabs, and even love hotels. If you don't know what a love hotel is, it's a hotel specializing in short-term stays for couples to do, well, exactly what it sounds like. Nearly all of these pursuits failed, and Nintendo was struggling to stay afloat in a declining industry, until one day Yamauchi discovered a maintenance worker playing with a grabbing device of his own design. This toy was released as the Ultra Hand, and was Nintendo's big break into the toy industry, selling over 1 million units and setting the stage for Nintendo to dominate the Japanese toy market. The toy's creator, Gunpei Yokoi, was then moved from the factory to product development. Yokoi went on to use his background in electrical engineering to create higher-end electronic toys for Nintendo. Products included the Ultra Machine, a toy that pitched small baseballs for children to hit with an included bat, and the Nintendo Beam Gun game, one of the first light gun games and a precursor to classic video games like Duck Hunt. The Beam Gun game led to Nintendo collaborating with Magnavox on developing a light gun game for Magnavox's new product, the Odyssey, the first home video game console. The project, titled Shooting Gallery, included a light gun peripheral and 4 very primitive shooting games. Nintendo had a very good relationship with Magnavox following the release of Shooting Gallery, and Nintendo began developing its own plans to break into the new video game market. At first, Nintendo made very basic games, much like what the Odyssey provided. Their Color TV series of consoles featured simple games like a Pong clone called Light Tennis and Othello. Their first arcade release was EVR Race, a fairly primitive game where horses raced on screen and players bet on which horse would win. The game featured randomized full-motion video scenes of the race, with a video for each possible outcome. In 1981, Nintendo looked to develop yet another arcade game. They had struggled to break into the North American market with titles like Sheriff and Radarscope, failing to make an impact. As a last-ditch effort, Hiroshi Yamauchi left a young designer named Shigeru Miyamoto to create a game that would be Nintendo's big break. As many of us know, Miyamoto is quite possibly the most important man in the gaming industry. But back then he was chosen, by his own admission, because there was, quote, no one else available to do the work. Being overseen by Miyamoto's mentor, Gunpei Yokoi, the project began development. At first, Miyamoto wanted to make a game based on Popeye. When Nintendo was unable to acquire the license, Miyamoto created his own characters that filled the same roles, replacing Popeye with a red-clad plumber named Jumpman, Olive Oil with the plumber's love interest, Pauline, and Bluto with a mad ape and the game's namesake, Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong was a smash hit, being played in arcades around the world. The success of Donkey Kong led to sequels, lawsuits over the similarities to King Kong, and even a documentary focusing on the competitive scene. Donkey Kong also went on to be ported to nearly every console available, including the Intellivision, ColecoVision, and the Atari. Not only was Donkey Kong Nintendo's most successful release to date, it was also the very first appearance of the most recognizable character in all of gaming. Jumpman, now named Mario, went on to receive his own game titled Mario Brothers. This game established many important aspects of Mario's character, including his job as a plumber and his brother, Luigi. After rolling out several arcade hits, Nintendo tried once again to enter the home console market in 1986 with the Family Computer, or Famicom. The Famicom went on to become a hit in Japan due to arcade ports on the console such as Donkey Kong and Mario Brothers, as well as simple titles like baseball, golf, and the iconic Duck Hunt. This success in their home country led Nintendo to look into launching the Famicom in another major market, North America. The video game market in America at the time, well, it wasn't doing so great. You see, in 1983, the American video game market went through what is called the video game crash of 1983. Video games were seen as a fad, and an onslaught of low-quality games, such as the Atari port of Pac-Man, and most infamously, E.T., led to Americans almost completely abandoning the medium. With the North American market being nearly non-existent at this point, Nintendo was forced to roll back their overseas Famicom launch and create new strategies to find success in this difficult market. The first step Nintendo made was having every game need their approval and receive the official Nintendo seal of quality before being released on their platform. Nintendo also knew that customers would be hesitant to buy a new video game console after the crash, so they used their background as a toy company to develop a peripheral to be sold with the console. The Robotic Operating Buddy, or ROB, was a machine created to play along with the player in certain Nintendo games, and allowed Nintendo to market their console not as a video game, but rather as an interactive toy to avoid the stigma video games had at the time. With their strategy in place, Nintendo was ready to launch the Famicom, now branded the Nintendo Entertainment System, in North America in 1986. The NES was an instant success, selling over 1 million units in its first year, revitalizing the video game market. The NES owes much of its success to its strong library, whether it was collecting the Triforce in The Legend of Zelda, exploring the depths of Planet Zebes in Metroid, or saving the Mushroom Kingdom in the iconic Super Mario Bros. Nintendo had plenty of options when it came to how gamers spent their hard-earned allowances. And that's not even including several third-party hits such as Final Fantasy, Castlevania, and Mega Man. Thanks to the NES, Nintendo went on to dominate the industry throughout the 80s, becoming so widespread that the words video games and Nintendo were interchangeable. After conquering the home video game market, Nintendo soon set their eyes on taking console-quality gaming on the go. Due to his experience with the Game & Watch series, Nintendo gave control of this project to longtime developer Gunpei Yokoi, and in 1989 launched the Game Boy. The Game Boy was an instant hit due to its low cost, durable design, and included pack-in title Tetris. The Game Boy did to the handheld market what the NES did to the home market. The idea of taking Mario, Zelda, and others on the go was wildly appealing to gamers around the world. The Game Boy also introduced franchises like Kirby and the international phenomenon, Pokémon. Finally, video games were untethered from the television, and you could play where you wanted, when you wanted. After their initial success with the NES and Game Boy, Nintendo continued to develop new handhelds and home consoles. While some of the leaders from their early years in video games have since sadly passed, Nintendo lives up to their legacy by never being satisfied with purely financial success. To this day, Nintendo continues to challenge the video game industry and move it forward with consoles such as the Wii and handhelds like the DS. Although not every gamble paid off, Nintendo was a force to be reckoned with in the handheld and console markets until they eventually merged both divisions into one platform. No matter what the future may hold for Nintendo, one thing is certain. They will continue to carve their own path, play by their own rules, and take massive risks in the name of fun.